Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with They Played the Premiere. They gave us the world premiere and made recordings to remember it by, or for us to remember them by, or the work, or whatever. And in this case, this is a wonderful confluence of conductor and work that I'll bet a lot of you aren't too aware of. The work in question is Manuel de Falla, the Three-Cornered Hat, the ballet. Does anyone not love this ballet? I mean, seriously? One of the most tuneful, colorful, magical pieces of music for the dance. It's just delicious. And the premiere was conducted by Ernest Ansermet, who recorded it twice, once in mono and later in stereo, both with the Orchestre de la Suisse Romande. Now, this is the stereo one, with Teresa Berganza singing. And it's very, very interesting. You know, you could argue, actually, that he didn't really conduct the premiere because there was an earlier version of this ballet for chamber forces. Remember, it was the Corregidor and the Molinera and the Miller's Wife in its earlier pantomime version. But then Falla, juiced it up for full orchestra and whatnot. And Ansermet led the premiere. So it's really a big, different work, and I'm not going to quibble with tiny details like that. They don't matter. What makes this so interesting is that if you have the mono version, which has been floating around, and perhaps someday if Decca gets around to doing a mono Ansermet box, it will return, the performances are rather different. First of all, we notice two things. We notice the vast improvement in the orchestra between the mono version and the stereo version. Sonically, of course, they're also a world apart. I mean, the stereo version is beautifully recorded. The mono version is good mono, good Decca mono. It was for the same label, both of them, so you can make that comparison. And it's very handy. But the other thing that's interesting is that there are differences in the interpretation. And Ansermet was known as one of those sticklers for the score kind of guys. He was a mathematician. He was all these sticklers for the score guys also do things like he added an organ to the pictures in an exhibition, and he would futz around now and again. But the point is that one of the big differences in the Three-Cornered Hat is that in that first big dance, the jota, whatever, it's not the jota, the fandango, I think it is. The end is the jota. One of the first part that goes yum ba da 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 dum bum bum ba da 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 dum bum bum. Now, in the score, and this is something I always look for, Falla asks that those bump bumps be held back a little bit. And some conductors really make a meal of it. I think it sounds terrible. Pierre Boulez is one of them. He goes chun da 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 dum bum bum ba da 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 dum bum bum. Now, this is a problem. It's a problem because that motive appears about 130 million times. And while you can do that the first couple of times to make some sort of expressive point, if you do it every time, it just chops the music up and holds the whole thing back really terribly. Now, in one version, I'm not going to say which, because you get to go listen to them and find out for yourself, Ansermet does do that hold, not as crazily as some other people I've heard, but he does do the chun cha da 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 dum bum bum, and in the other one he doesn't. It's chun da 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 dum bum bum ba da 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 dum bum bum. You can make the same effect by accent as well as with actual tempo, with like futzing around with the tempo. You can make the weight come through and give it a little more emphasis, but by also keep the music moving. It's one of those little niceties that people who know the work really well sometimes listen for, or at least I do, because I listen for differences. And that's an obvious one. It's not even a subtle one. It's a really obvious one. And I tend to prefer that conductors not, make too much of that business, because like I said, it's rhythm, and you're going to hear it over and over again, and you don't want to stop the music dead in its tracks each time that comes back. So Ansermet does it once, and the other time he doesn't. And what this tells us, this tiny little detail, this tiny little pathetic detail, is that we have no idea what Falla really wanted, obviously, the degree to which he really wanted it. He did not record this himself. Although there are piano versions of those dances. I don't know if he played them, the piano version of that particular dance, but or I haven't compared the orchestral score to the piano score, so I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that as with all of these instances where we have artists who live to make recordings after conducting the premiere is that their opinions of the work may change, their interpretations may change, playing styles change, their vision of what the composer wanted, and their relationship to it may change. We don't know. We just don't know. And that makes this such a fascinating topic, I think, and a real adventure in listening, because both of the recordings are very good. And Ansermet's authority in this work was really sovereign. I mean, I'm not saying he was the best or anything like that, but I mean, his performances, his recording, especially this stereo one on Decca, is as good as anything out there. It's one of the reference recordings for the work. No question about it. And it's not because he conducted the premiere. It's because it's a self-evidently fabulous performance of what Falla wrote. It's just great. And so does his authority as the guy who did the premiere matter? Well, it's up to you to decide. All I can tell you is that he was there. He gave the premiere and he recorded it a couple times afterwards for our delectation. And Falla obviously was happy with what he did. And make of it what you will. We have the audible evidence to help us decide. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.